Michael, I would like to start with a very random question based on
Yes.
the topic you just brought up, which was Australia. Do you get a lot of clients in Australia? Is being Australian is that a USP for you?
Yeah, yeah, it
It is.
definitely
Okay.
is. Looking at the proportion of clients, hmm, it's probably about 50 or 60% Australian and then 40%
Oh,
international.
oh wow.
So
Okay.
it's interesting. The Australian work we get is referral work, and the US work or the international work's usually from the internet originally, then with um, referrals coming from that as well. So
Okay.
I do prefer. Actually, it's just strange. Like Australian clients, I find it easier to do, but US clients are easier to scale. Just because, yeah. Anyway, that's the answer to it.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I
What about
actually thought it would
what
be
about
less.
you, mate? What about you? What percentage breakdown of clients is from the US versus other locations?
Oh, I mean, it's easily 80%. I mean, U.S. businesses, right? It tends to
Yeah.
be something that most advertising agencies are going after, from my experience. So, yeah, I think time zone is a big part of it, right? We want to be on the same time
Yeah.
zone as our clients. Does that happen with Australia too, I imagine?
It's the time, like we've got clients in like LA, New York. It's fine. It
Hmm.
really doesn't make a difference. I always think it is, and then when I jump on a call with them at like 11 a.m. our time, they're like, "Yeah, it's 3 p.m. here." I'm like, "What is these time?" I always think it's like some like hour of the night that's like 2 a.m. for them, but it's like they're like, "Yeah, really like 4 hours ahead of you. Well, 20 hours behind." I always with America, I always just think they're ahead, but minus a day.
That's what we want you to think. We're
Yes,
always
yeah.
ahead.
Mate,
What
you
about
know what?
European clients? What? Go
Mate,
ahead. Go ahead.
something just pinged to my mind now. So even though this is a thrilling conversation right now, this is actually really timely, and I think this might throw a curveball in. Okay, what's happening in America at the moment with the tariffs, quote unquote, potential tariffs with
Uh-huh.
Mexico, China, and Canada? What are you seeing with your clients? Because I had a call with one of my clients. Shout out to Donald, you're a legend, mate. And with his e-commerce store, it was originally Australian, and then we launched in the US late last year, and it's been constantly growing. It was starting at about a 3x, and now it's up to a 5x. But their
Hmm.
revenue last month increased by 160%, like over six figures. And we're chatting about it. And this was just in January against December, which December was its biggest month before. And we're
Hmm.
discussing it. It's not like I've done some magical voodoo in the ad account, but we're just talking about the market forces, especially recently with Trump coming back in and then these threats around tariffs and then these new things talking about how orders under $800 from China are not going to be able to come through without being taxed. But the issue is they're just being stopped now rather than being processed. You're from America. You're an e-commerce guru. Tell me your thoughts
Hmm.
on this right now. I'm
So that
seeing
was a very
outstanding results, but
a couple things. So that I think maybe you're referring to the USPS stoppage.
yep.
For China. So that's from logistic people I know in the logistics world that has already returned back to normal. So that was a very temporary
Okay.
stoppage. Though they were kind of like, all right, we need to put in some contingency plans in case
Yeah.
that happens
But it
again.
is a threat to like
Yeah, that's
clients and
very
businesses,
concerning.
especially if they're coming from products from China.
Yep, exactly. Which is a lot, right? Especially in the e-commerce space. If you're selling physical products, whatever, that is something to be concerned about and something to prepare for. Absolutely. I'd say the most unique perspective is businesses that are trying to get ahead of this. That they sort of planned for this because he had campaigned on this idea, the whole tariffs thing. So what they did is they bought a lot of inventory ahead of
Yes.
time, and they're overstocked because they would rather do that so they're not passing along additional costs to their client base or to their customer base.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most unique thing. Everyone else is expecting, depending on how this all goes, to have to increase prices and pass those additional costs on to the consumer. Unfortunately.
Have you noticed? Well, I don't. I'd love to say I'm not up to date with American politics, but I actually am, and it's quite embarrassing. Have you noticed that with some of your US clients that they've had a bump in sales because people have been preemptively buying things before the potential tariffs and increases on product prices?
There's no, I wouldn't have a way to directly create any causation or correlations between those, so I couldn't say that
Okay.
I've seen that necessarily. I think that's an interesting theory, but I feel like so many people are not really sure what's going to happen. So
Mm.
and I also don't expect the normal American consumer to plan ahead that much and buy these things
Yeah.
beforehand. Though I know some people in the tech space that, if it's kind of a mixed batch. Not to get super nerdy on you guys, but in terms of the newest GPU technologies, the 500 series are going to be dropping, are already starting to drop in some cases. So some people in the tech world, they are buying those larger devices with those newer chips now because they're expecting those costs to continue to rise throughout the year,
Mm.
especially given these tariffs. So I think it's maybe a mixed batch. On the personal side, I'm hearing some things, but I don't have any correlations with my accounts right now.